Okay, Bismillah. Welcome everybody. Today in our webinar about strategic solution for Saudi manufacturing with our partner Replan, will they present their solution and their advantages and features in this field. In the beginning, TDM, it's a consultant company. Can you see the second slide, please? Next slide. Okay. In TDM, this is the team of artificial intelligence in supply chain and procurement, and also with our partner from Replan, Shabir Ahmed, TDM, me and Mr. Ahmed Amir and Mr. Muhammad Dawood. They are a specialist and a consultant in the artificial intelligence, the supply chain and the procurement. TDM consultant company, can you please go to the second slide? Yes, TDM consultant company, it's a Saudi company starting from 2015. Our work now with more than 12 billion riyals in our client capital, saving more than 800 million riyal during our projects. We work with company with total number of workforce, more than 47,000 workforce. The average of expertise in TDM, their experience around 20 years. Can you go please second slide? Yes, this is the model of TDM, how they how we deliver our value and our project. We have TDM consultant and specialist with a 20 years experience average. Also, we have a partnership in the strategy or in operation, supply chain, and in technology. And one of those partners, Replan, today with us, who will participate and present their solution here.
Thank you. Thank you, Brother Tala and Muhammad. So let me give you like a little bit about the historical challenges of manufacturing in general since the 18th century. Since the 18th century, the manufacturer or the plants, factories are focusing more to produce exactly what needed by the community or the customer, from food products to other needs in the community. When it comes to the 20th centuries and 1900s, we start the concept of mass production. That's because of the start of the Industrial Revolution in Europe, and then the New World Order after World War II. They start to focus on how we can increase the manufacturing capacity to make a mass production, so we can fulfill the demand from the new baby boomers that happened after World War II. At that time, the priority was to focus on how to reduce the setup costs, how to reduce the unit costs, while producing vast amount of products to satisfy these needs. Then, when it comes to the 50s and 60s, the community of the manufacturers start to focus on now we already do mass production. How to can improve it, process improvement methods such as they start to focus on Six Sigma, Lean, just-in-time, TQM, and theory of constraints in order to improve the process of manufacturing and reduce waste and errors in the production facilities. Then after that, by the dot-com industry booming in the 2000 and later, the start of concept of customization and more tailored to order. And that became more and more complicated because now the average customer wants a product that's really tailored to her or his needs, which create by the back end more complications when it comes to, especially when there's multiple product lines running at the same time in the factory, multiple assembly lines, and each had its own BOM, bullet material, has its own takt time, production lead time, etc. That created more and more complication in order to reach to this level of customization and tailor to order feature on the new century. Therefore, the current model or the legacy system softwares that we've been using to solve like these scheduling issues from master scheduling, MRP2, ERP, etc., spreadsheets, would not able to cope with all this customization that required in this era. And for that reason, it comes to the magic of Gen AI and AI in general for how to disrupt this legacy function of manufacturing to cope with the current model of customer demand that ever evolving. I'll pass it over to the next slide to Muhammad. He's going to talk to us more about the role of Gen AI from the technology standpoint.
Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you so much, Ahmed. In the previous slide, Ahmed talked to us about some of the challenges in manufacturing planning. In this slide, I want to talk about how artificial intelligence can help you overcome those challenges. I'll especially talk about generative AI, sometimes also known as Gen AI, which is based on large language models and foundation models. And many of us here probably explored with generative AI through OpenAI's ChatGPT or Google Bard or Anthropic, and found that the main power of generative AI is that it can generate for you new data based on the data you can give it. So in case of manufacturing planning, it can ingest all of the data related to your manufacturing facility and give you like recommendations or even pinpoint where is the bottlenecks. And the good thing about generative AI, especially when it comes to manufacturing planning, it can ingest structured and unstructured data. Structured data could be the Excel sheets that you use for planning, or it could be SQL databases, Oracle databases. And the non-structured data could be like a NoSQL database, or even could be an invoice in a PDF format. So all of these can be ingested by the generative AI, and you will be presented with new insights that is not really humanly possible to do it manually to process all of this amount of data. And built on top of AI, there's a very important concept in manufacturing planning, which is digital twin. And the digital twin is literally like a digital copy of your manufacturing facility, where you can see like live what's happening in your facility in terms of equipment used, device manufactured, and you can run all those different simulations to identify different risks. Like Ahmed told us, economic order quantities, EOQs, or cycle times, or takt times. Through digital twinning, you can manipulate those and see what's the effect of different cycle times on your output and how it can help you meet those deadlines to manufacture like a certain quantities. So digital twinning is very, very important in manufacturing planning. And before I pass over the slide to the next presenter, I want to mention the very famous quote by Thomas Reed, which is, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Digital twin and AI will help you identify this weakest link, and will also give you recommendations how to fix this weakest link and what to do. Saying this, I want to now pass it to Shabir Ahmed, who's part of Replan, which is TDM's partner, to talk to us about their solution, software, and some of the case studies that they have faced. Shabir, your slide.
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks very much, Mohammed. Yes, so I'll take a little bit of time to kind of introduce Replan to you, and I'll make references to what brothers Ahmed and Mohammed have said already, actually, especially in terms of digital twins and theory of constraints and things like that as well. So you're going to see a practical example of all the stuff that we've been talking about. Replan as an entity exists because there is a weakness that we address within the marketplace. If you know about SAP APO, SAP IBP, Kinaxis, Blue Yonder, John Galt, there may be some others actually that I might have mentioned, that I might have forgotten actually. But the thing is, each and every one of those are wonderful systems, end to end. But there is an inherent weakness in each and every one of them, which is that within the production planning area, the manufacturing planning area where we're talking about creating digital twins, there is an issue, because without the use of AI, what planners have been doing historically, and I'm one of them actually, I'm a time-served planner. I just used to download all the information into an Excel spreadsheet and basically create the plan that way. The technology has moved on now with AI. AI enables you to basically use or basically handle vast amounts of data to be able to return an answer, an optimized answer, or a solution in a matter of minutes. So that's what Replan does. And that's the weakness that we try to address So within your organizations, if you have any of these systems that he mentioned, SAP APO, SAP IBP, two systems that I actually put into Coca-Cola and also American Sugar Refining, but I ended up, as I said, having to use spreadsheets to be able to kind of generate, value add plans. Kinaxis, Blue Yonder, all the others. We actually complement these systems with an optimized sequence and cyclicity when it comes to the production planning area by virtue of the actual digital twin itself. So what I'll do is I'll give you a practical demonstration in a second, but like Brother Mohammed has said, I'll talk about some case studies. Why do all this? If I said to you that historically the planner is trying to get a plan out in as little amount of time as possible, what the planner does jointly with operations is to adopt a mode of operation that allows planning and operations to kind of work together. So what operations more or less dictate, a lot of FMCG companies have done this, certainly my experience, is a template way of working, which is you change over something, you make one product once a week, another one twice, once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks, and then you have some semblance of a structure in terms of how to create a plan. But it's not optimal. It just allows for manufacturing to have some stability and predictability around what the plan might look like. It also allows the planning team to create a plan that might be acceptable to operations. But as I said, it's not optimal because there is a huge amount of improvements that could be made given the technology. So and I'll show you that, in a few minutes, but sort of the implementations that we've actually done so far, and this is only an example, and what you see in front of you actually is just 3 case studies. And what we do in terms of our implementation, it only takes a matter of weeks. 4 weeks is what we use to kind of run a pilot. And the pilot could be for about 3 or 4 or 5 lines. It could be a whole factory. But what we're trying to do in those 4 weeks is to highlight the value of using an AI-enabled supply planning solution. So you'll be able to see side by side the legacy way of working and also Replan way of working. And you'll be able to then calculate what the value is. This is what we've actually delivered so far. So in the UK-based, actually an Irish-based, UK food and beverage with an £800 million turnover, just on 2 lines, out of 40 in the whole factory, the pilot, we were able to demonstrate a saving or an additional sort of revenue of 470,000 euros in yearly profit. And in this particular case, we're able to take the inventory cost down from something like 22 days down to 16 days, which equated to almost 800,000 euros worth of immediate cash savings. All right, this is cash that you can actually take to the bank. A large sort of UK drinks manufacturer with a £2 billion plus turnover. The pilot demonstrated a throughput increase of almost 5%. And you can see the additional bottles that we're able to make, anything between 90 to 180,000. The actual number is 400,000, to be honest, but we whittled it down to a more, let's say, acceptable 90 to 180. There will be a time when you're actually making a saving of 400,000 bottles. And also there's a further 3.5% increase that can be achieved by extending Replan into the S&OP horizon. So Replan, when you see it, is horizon agnostic. You've got the here and now. You've also got the extent of the actual S&OP horizon as well. And you can basically make decisions for the longer term as well. On case study 3, which is basically a meat manufacturer in Ireland with about €1 billion turnover. And the first sort of comment there, Replan cut production planning time down from 2 days to 5 minutes. So this is it's an unbelievable statement actually, but you'll see it when I show it to you on the screen. It's a completely different way of working now. With the advent of AI, I mean, if you go into ChatGPT, like Brother Mohammed said, you type in something like, give me a marketing plan for a new product. In a matter of seconds, it'll just give you a proposal. Similar sort of thing, right, is possible within production planning as well. You can call this a black swan event, actually, to be honest. Go from 3 days to 5 minutes seems unbelievable, but this is an actual result that we achieved. But the key thing, and the reason why it actually took such a long time, is because you had different people doing different things. And what we did was basically, by virtue of the digital twin, just press the button and it just created a balanced plan. And that working capital is something that we've actually achieved savings in every implementation. So you've got a certain amount of stock, and it could be in raw materials or packaging materials, or it could be in finished case goods. What we're able to do is to demonstrate the same sort of KPIs in some cases in terms of service, or sometimes improvements in KPIs whilst reducing working capital. Okay. So those are those. What I want to do in the time that we've got, if it's okay, I want to demonstrate the actual tool to you. And what we can do is to kind of have an interactive session if we want, if we could, just to take some questions at the same time. Okay. Can you see my screen?
We do see your screen, yes.
Great.
And Shabir, as you said, for the attendees, this is the part where Shabir is showing an actual demo. So feel free to speak up and ask questions, and let's have this interactive with
Yes.
all of us.
Yes, please. I think the key thing is that you know, we're answering people's questions as well, so you get the maximum value out of the session.
And to see the power of this tool, yes.
Absolutely. So what I want to do is, rather than giving you a kind of a 90-minute sort of demo, I'll just basically focus on key elements that we've already talked about. You know, so I'll show you what Replan looks like, especially when it comes to the sequencing. So what's possible now, if you look at the sequence here, this is a soft drinks manufacturer, and it's basically the factory. And in each one of these bars is an actual job itself, and it's time bound. So you've got the resources here, and you've got the time bound. And you'll see in a second, actually, when I drop the screen, when I scroll the screen down. But essentially, in this factory, you're also planning core manufacturing as well. But in this factory, you've got 6 fillers, 6 mixing tanks, and also 6 packing lines. And of course, it's all time bound. And the time can be days, weeks, or months. You know, it's up to the client to determine how they actually want to plan. But we, in the way that Replan runs, it runs to the extent of the forecast horizon. If your forecast horizon in the next 20 weeks, you'll return a plan for 20 weeks. If your forecast horizon is 2 years, you know, you got the option of actually extending this 2 years out. And we can talk about that as well, actually, because within Replan, we also service the S&OP process through a very cool user interface. But in terms of how the system calculates the actual solution itself, so this is a filler 2, right? These are intermediate products. They're not saleable goods. They just come out the filler. What happens is, with Replan, you have something called dynamic production wheels. Historically, as a planner for the last 25, 30 years, I've been using static production wheels. You know, we talked about cyclicity that planning actually used to create a plan that will be acceptable to operations. That in itself is fraught with suboptimal ways of working. So what Replan does is actually creates that view dynamically. It's always optimizing. So there is no fixed sequence in any of these sort of cycles, but Replan, by virtue of the AI solve, is optimizing all the time at every production solve. So if you can make a change in the short term, you don't need to worry about recreating the plan for next week, for the next 6 months, for the next 2 years. You press a button and basically it'll take whatever your starting point is in terms of the changes you made in the short term. Can you hear me okay?
Now,
Yeah, I lost you for like few seconds.
yeah,
Not sure,
we'll hear you
I
now,
just
Shabir. Yeah,
last
we lost you for a little bit.
seconds. For...
Let me just
Shabir, also as part of your demo, I would love to see, or I would love for you to explain to the attendees the value of this versus the manual planning that you said you yourself used to do many years ago. Like this is
Yes.
what actually I would love to highlight for everyone here to see the value added if they get to use something like this.
Absolutely, yeah. So can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay.
We do hear you now, yes.
Yes,
Okay,
we can hear you.
So I was just building up to that, to be honest, actually. So you've got all this, right, that you created. I will answer your question, actually, but I think just to give people an idea as to what granularity of information that you actually get. So you get the basically a start and stop time for every job in the short term, medium term, and long term as well. So here you got the actual job itself on the filler 2 with a quantity and start and stop time and duration. And then you got a changeover, which is basically master data. And it's changing over to 330 mil. You got a duration, start and stop time, and you've got the third job there as well, actually. So the value that you talk about, this is, by the way, all created in a matter of minutes, okay? And it's for the whole factory, right? So traditionally, you've got people making this plan, sat in different locations, working to different sort of timelines, but in a matter of minutes, you can actually have your solution out of Replan. And all this information here can be put into the ERP system. So whatever system you have, let's say it's SAP, for instance, and use SAP as your ERP, this information goes into SAP, and however you communicate the plan to the shop floor and to others, right, you can maintain that, okay? Now, in terms of, to answer Brother Hamid's question, right, what I want to do is to show you the digital twin, right? And it'll basically make it clear as to how beneficial it is, right? So the digital twin starts off with a changeover matrix, and the changeover matrix is basically comprehensive across the whole factory, right? And it's basically from product to product. And this changeover matrix, once it's completed, is a confirmation of your capability, okay? It's a capability matrix. And what we do is we'll work with a client for the first couple of weeks to create this changeover matrix. Sometimes it's quite broken and we have to build it jointly with the client, but we will do that, you know, working with the client. The other thing that Replan requires you to do is to create, is to be able to describe how something is made, okay? You can still see my screen, right?
We do see it, yes. Or at least I do see it.
Okay, good. So I'm hopefully going to answer your question, actually. So, so this is a finished case good 24 pack. It's got all this master data. So Brother Ahmed talked about lot sizes. So these are your lot sizes, you know, minimum, maximum, and there's a step size on top of that. And you've got some regulatory cleaning requirements. This is your bill of materials, right? So you could have 2 materials to make this pack, or you could have 200. You just take an extract out of ERP. These are all the resources that are used that are capable of making this particular product, along with the run rate and the priorities. And of course, you've got the output here. So if I just hit this button, you'll be able to see what a digital twin looks like. This is a graphical representation of all the master data. Essentially, this is your manufacturing digital twin. So by virtue of this, I'm going to answer Brother Mohammed's question. So if I just explain what this means, right? So you've got this finished case good here, which is a Cola 24 pack. It goes through all these packing lines, all these fillers, all these mixing tanks, okay, and using all these ingredients. Now, traditionally, you'll have a central planner, for instance, creating a production plan by line, by week, for the next 12 weeks, for the next 6 months, for the next 2 years, right? And they will look at stock boundaries for finished case goods and intermediates. And then for the, you know, they'll pass over, you know, the first second and third week, maybe, right? Basically, the scheduling horizon over to the local schedulers who would then sequence that production on the lines, right? So they create a schedule, and then that gets passed over to a process engineer that looks after the fillers. And then people who work in the syrup room are also would be creating a schedule. So you'll have a situation where you've got a 1, 2, 3 plans, 4 plans, right? Plus the material supply run as well. Essentially 5 plans that are being done by, let's say, 5 different teams. With Replan, by virtue of the digital twin and AI, all of that will be done in a matter of minutes, centrally. You know, somebody could be located in Jeddah, for instance, and they could run the plan for the whole country using the digital twin. Okay, that's the power of this. And the key thing is, and this is the unique selling point, is that this is built on first principles. This is built on all the master data that operations use to run the factory. All the changeover times, the run rates. We talked about takt time earlier on. Changeover times, run rates, right? The material supply, right? All that stuff will be used to be able to create the plan, but you'd use it in a matter and do it in a matter of minutes. And the key thing here is, and Brother Mir talked about this, the theory of constraints. AI now enables you to balance production based on the bottleneck. As a planner, you know, there's no way that I can actually remember or even take into account the bottleneck depending on the scenario. You don't need to do anymore. You just manage the inputs. You just upload the changeover times and also the run rates and the relationships through the bill of materials. You will actually enable AI to create that bottleneck visibility for you. And the beauty of it is, because it's applying the theory of constraints, it's actually creating a balanced plan based on that bottleneck. And it monitors that bottleneck as well, depending on the scenario. So if you go from a big can to a small can, that might mean that the bottleneck moves from the process area to the packing area. You don't need to worry about that. All right, the system will actually identify it dynamically. Okay. Now I'll stop there to take any questions because I've talked for a long time now, actually.
Yeah, Brother Shabir, I would just want to ask one thing. Do you have a figure to tell us, like, based on the current customer or the previous customer who used the tool, what the financial benefits they recognize when it comes to cost savings or like improving takt time, improving the production flow? They recognize you only by using the digital twinning and automating this process.
Absolutely, yeah. So you can go into the tens of millions, actually, to be honest. It depends on how big the customer is. But I'll illustrate it with an example, okay? There is it's not necessarily a big customer, actually, but this is true for all of them. We had, we worked with a client, a challenger snatch manufacturer here in the UK. The turnover was only about £70 million. It's a very small company. And over a 3-week period, working with a partner, a management consultancy, using Replan, in that 3-week period, we were able to demonstrate £3.5 million worth of savings, all right, using Replan. But get this, right? So that £1 million would be immediately available because we're able to demonstrate during that 3 weeks, from start to finish, demonstrate optimal sequencing, optimal cyclicity. And as a consequence of all that, there was a gap created in the standard week. Okay. Whereas before they were changing over too many times and then basically running suboptimally, we're able to demonstrate optimal running, optimal cyclicity. And what it actually did consistently across the weeks was create a gap. And they had a lot of co-manufacturing that was being basically made outside. They'd actually take all of their volume, which is about 10%, and bring it in-house, and they saved them £1 million straight away. That is,
wow, it's like an ROI of like weeks of ROI, even months.
It's unbelievable, right? It is. This is it. So, you know, you talk about planning taking, you know, going from 3 days to 5 minutes. I mean, you got Google Maps now, right? I don't know how long we've had actually sat in navigation, right? So if you're following Google Maps, there's a roadblock, you take a detour, it comes up with an alternative for you. that is the technology that you're actually going to take benefit from right, using AI within planning, okay? Because we only scratch the surface of it. That's only the benefit that I'm talking about. The other benefit that you can have here is, if you want to talk about specifically benefits. Now, in a kind of an S&OP setting, you could have a situation where you want to run scenarios, okay? So what you do is you hit the clone plan, okay? And you're able to put in a new demand forecast, a new capacity, new run rates, okay? So you can basically adjust operating on a kind of a, you still see my screen?
Yes.
We see it, yes. I see your screen, yes.
Okay, fine. Sorry. So you could have a situation where you know, sales director might say, look, I want to increase the distribution of cola 30 pack. I want to double it from, you know, week 26 onwards, right, to week 37. Right, so you go in and you put in 200%. Okay, you save that down, right? You could have a situation also where you take a line down, right? So if I just take the line down like this, and the engineer says from week 28 until week 30, that line is not going to be available to you anymore, for instance, for whatever reason. You can do it in a planned way or an unplanned way. This is basically, you know, somebody saying there's something wrong with the line. So you take that out of the equation. If you want to put in new run rates, right, for a particular product, you can put new run rates, right, new lot sizes, okay? And we talked about a lot about disruption in terms of raw materials. So what you have is, for instance, there may be a delivery that's been disrupted of a particular product in week 30, right? And let's say that's 0, okay? You upload the parameters that are different, and it could be really complex or it could be really small or whatever, and you clone that plan, right? You hit the clone. I won't do it right now, actually, right? But you hit clone and you basically generate a plan, right? It goes off and basically calculates a plan in a matter of minutes. And what you can do is, depending on how many you've got, you can compare the scenarios. So you can look at it in terms of service level, in terms of capacity utilization, in terms of safety stock violations, maximum stock, changeover cost, changeover duration. And you can have a number of metrics that you might want to look at for a particular product. And all 3 scenarios would actually be visible. Now, we would actually work with a client to really make this work within the process. Right? So if you automate what a planner does, as in end-to-end, what does the planner do? This is a huge change management exercise then, because the routines need to be changed from a daily, weekly, monthly basis. What does the planner do? They manage exceptions. This is what they're going to be paid to do. So all the sort of the work, the calculations are done by the tool, but you manage exceptions. And you go from chasing, you know, expediting materials, coping with breakdowns, right? You go from all that. I mean, that still needs to happen up to an extent, right? But you won't need to recreate plans anymore. They'll be done for you, and they'll be optimal, and they'll be multi-level. It's going to release the time for the planner to be able to focus on the decisions that need to be made in the short, medium, and long term. So your planning team actually takes part then properly in the orchestration of the supply chain. There's a huge change management exercise in some companies. Some companies, the planning teams are quite, you know, well advanced, and they actually welcome that time to be able to do that and do that more often. But in some cases, you have to start from scratch. And in some cases, unfortunately, the demands of the planner, because they are different, that particular planner may not be up to the task, which means that they need to be trained. If that doesn't work, you know, we have to find something else. They have to find something else to do. Okay. Now I'm going to stop there. Again, as I said, I'll take questions because there's quite a lot to take in. Yeah. Any questions?
Maybe I'll start this, and the rest of the attendees can start asking questions just to warm them up. what would be the best vertical or industry to deploy a Replan solution? Or is it customizable?
Yeah, so we work well within a process environment. So this is food and beverage, FMCG, CPG. So FMCG could be razor blades. CPG could also be shampoo, if you like, Unilever, for instance. Chemicals, pharma, life sciences, anything that would be, like you say, vertically integrated, and we can actually do that. Agribusiness, oils, chemicals, things like that. We're even working with a client that makes printed circuit boards. And it's not traditional, it's not food and beverage, it's not FMCG, but this particular client, in the way that they are set up, we can treat the manufacturing process like a processor, like you make food or anything else. So you take the ingredients, in this case PCBs, you break them up, so that's part of the process. You take components that you buy and you basically put them into the machines. You kind of mount them on a PCB, right? This is around about 16 machines. And then they go to the welding machines or the soldering machines where the underside is actually soldered, right? And then they go into coating and things like that. So this is a unique application for Replan. And what we're finding is that we're able to schedule or plan the lines differently to the way they do it, that they are doing at the moment, to save them quite a lot of time, especially when it comes to labor planning, stranded labor. So not only have we optimized the lines, we've also optimized the use of labor as well. Okay. And because they're capacity constrained, what we're aiming to do is to create that headspace for them to be able to take on additional volume. So the value for this particular business is going to be in the tens of millions, just by virtue of using Replan in terms of cycling or sequencing and cycling through the products differently. Okay. So in summary, it's process, but also what we have is high volume discrete as well. Okay. If you have a company that makes aeroplanes or cars, then the Replan is probably not your tool of choice when it comes to planning, right? That's proper discrete. Okay.
Very good. Makes sense. Thank you for your answer.
Okay.
Let's see if we have questions from the audience.
Yeah, let's open the audience. I want to hear more from the audience.
And feel free to type in a question if you don't want to unmute yourself. I actually just saw one question coming in. Is there any documentation for this webinar? I believe Massey can send the slides out to everyone. But if you have more questions specific, please let us know and we can answer it right now.
We'll send a, in addition to the slides for the webinar, we'll send some detailed materials, ebooks, so you can actually read about the case studies where AI has been used in supply planning, specifically what we've actually done. So you'll be able to get a view as to how we actually deliver value. Okay.
This would be very beneficial.
Absolutely, yeah. So if there's no other questions, I mean, please keep the questions coming. I'm going to carry on showing Replan, if that's okay. All right. Please type in or just basically raise your hand. Okay. So in terms of what it looks like when you're actually trying to use it, so it's okay creating a plan that you create this multi-level plan. So you got availability, right? So when I was a planner, I used to use spreadsheets, and I basically programmed the spreadsheets to give me alerts. So that's exactly what you have is red, amber, green. But this is, in terms of availability, it's a really cool feature. You got the concept of loss production.
Brother Chober, sorry for interrupting you. I see one of the attendees, Mr. Abdullah.
Yes.
Raise his hand. Mr. Abdullah, do you have any?
Yes, thank you, Shabir and Mohammed. I actually was trying to ask the question before. I wasn't going to interrupt you, but that's okay. As a follow-up question to Mr. Mahmoud, I'm just thinking on how can we integrate this into governmental and semi-governmental entities. And a concern that I have using AI is that AI, as we know it, or at least as I know, and I wish you to explain this to me, that AI requires data sent and processed into an external server. Is this the case here with you in Replan, or can you somehow integrate the AI processing power somehow locally in the facility?
Yeah, so that's a very good question, actually, in terms of security. We are a SaaS-based business, which basically means we're online. We're actually in Amazon Web Services, one of the most secure places you can have. So what we would do is we would actually become part of the technology stack of that particular organization. We will build or configure APIs, automatic programmable interfaces, to be able to take the information from the ERP system, put it into Replan, and then once the solution is being created for that solution then to be API'd across into whatever system there is on site. I think, brother, I think the intent of your question was basically related to security, right? But it's how secure is Amazon Web Services? That's basically on a case-by-case basis. Most manufacturers across the world now are actually migrating to basically a kind of a web-based service. Very rarely do you have an IT digitalization project, transformation project, where they entertain having something on-prem. So it's all basically going to the cloud now. Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And for private corporations, I think they are just fine with even they obviously care about cybersecurity and data security, but here so far it's a requirement not to send data to external sources. So is there a possibility to have it? Because this AI is still new, and maybe government entities does not go in the same base as private corporates. So in the meantime, it's a no for external server. I'm just asking for the possibility of having it locally.
You can do anything. It's a matter of the extent or the investment, I suppose. So it's something that I can actually get back to you on privately outside of this, or maybe we could do it through a brother Mazen to answer that question properly. I'll go back and talk to Replan, my colleagues here actually, and see if there's an exception that we can make for government agencies where we make Replan available on-prem. So it means that you have two but I will get back to you actually. If that's a hard constraint, maybe there is something we can do. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Just to give you an idea, the AI solve that's in there at the moment, it's not a generative AI. It's basically using AI. It's still the same sort of technology, but it's specifically designed to respond to the master data that's in the system. Okay. So even though we call it teaching yourself, the way the AI works is that it takes all of this data and through a process of logic, it'll create two solutions straight away, right? So, and it'll basically score those solutions. And it'll basically, it's advanced enough to recognize one is better than the other, right? So it'll carry on using a logical approach to kind of get to a solution very, very quickly. So you could be in a situation where the master data is not perfect, but it's okay, right? And the system will actually create a better plan automatically than you would be able to calculate manually, right, using a spreadsheet or even any other system. Okay, so the AI specifically restricted to that scope, nothing else. Okay. If there's no other question, I'll just finish off presenting this for a few minutes.
Shabir, if you don't mind, maybe I have a follow-up question to Mr. Abdullah's
Yeah.
question.
Yes.
Is it only running currently on AWS Cloud, or it's supported also by Microsoft Azure and Google GCP clouds? Like if a customer has a preference, cloud-based.
So we've chosen Amazon Web Services. Actually, that's probably the biggest around.
It is. Yes.
Yeah. So we can turn our hand to other things as well, actually. So we can host it on other places, in other places. Okay.
Fantastic. I just wanted to highlight the flexibility here. Thank you, Shabir. Back to you.
Okay. Availability. So just in the interest of time, I'll just give you a whistle-stop tour. Capacity. This is changing the game in how you look at information, right? So once the plan is run, you can eyeball the capacity utilization very, very quickly. And you'll be able to see by the extent of the actual color how busy a particular line is, right? And you can look at specific, all that information that you see, you can look at that by line. So this is packing line 2. It shows you the capacity of the line, right? It shows you utilization, and the difference between the capacity and the utilization is the changeover, for instance. In terms of inventory, it's a very comprehensive view in terms of inventory. You've got red, amber, green, and you've also got a blue as well, actually, which is greater than maximum stock. So what this is telling you is that, for this particular SKU, you've got no issues in terms of inventory, and then you've got less than safety stock, etc. And then you've got, for a 1 week, it's actually breaking your maximum safety stock boundaries. And there are situations where you are in trouble. And so you've got those sort of exceptions. Okay. Now, another cool feature, like I said to you about lost production and late production, there's another inventory analysis where timing is critical when it comes to demand. Okay. So timing of demand versus when it's actually produced. And in this case, you've got one particular product here. Right? If you click on that, you'll be able to see a heat map just for that particular product. And if you expand it, you'll be able to see all the materials that are used. And if these are color-coded red, then you'll be able to see if there's an issue. But here you've got clearly an issue in terms of packing line capacity. And you'll be able to see the fact that for those 3 weeks, you have an issue. And also for these 2 weeks, you have an issue as well. You've got a projection of stock, you've got a projection of demand, and also you've got the production plan as well. It shows you what line is actually being produced on. If it's late, it'll tell you how much is being produced late. And the resolution here for the planner is to then make a decision about the capacity. It could be that you ask the production people to run overtime to take that issue away. Okay. So we'll run out of time. It's 26 past the hour. We booked it for, we've got basically another 3 or 4 minutes. As I said, I can carry on talking about this, but I'll take guidance from you guys in terms of what you want to see next.
Let's give 1 more minute for audience. Anyone in the audience want to hear you more? We did that for you, the audience, so we would love to hear from you more.
No. Is anybody typing in any questions? No.
No. Okay, you can go ahead.
Yeah.
I just want to present one final thing, actually. So in terms of constraint profiles, you'll have hard constraints and soft constraints. So you might have a situation where, production line capacity is a hard constraint. You can just drag and drop that across, drag and drop. And then you've got soft constraints, in terms of safety stock. I like showing this warehouse utilization. A lot of factories have got warehouses bolted onto them, and they're owned by the company. And then you rent your third-party warehouse, and you don't want to use that. What you can do is you can constrain the production plan just to use your current on-site warehouse, and then you can have a look at what issues you might cause, and then by exception, you can resolve those exceptions and then send stock off-site, and you can calculate the cost of that as well. Okay. So I'm going to definitely stop there now, actually, to be honest, because otherwise it's going to confuse too many people. Now, like I said, what I'll do is through Brother Mazen, we'll send you the some additional materials on Replan, specifically around the unique selling points, case studies, ebooks, some thought leadership around SNOE and SNOP. Okay.
Okay. We have a list of emails, and we will send it to them or register this webinar.
Yes. Okay.
This is great. Thank you, Shabir, for presenting the tool. Fantastic tool for digital twinning built on top of AI. A lot of value can be realized from it. And if there's any questions, again, Mazen will collect them, but please for now, just send the material. And if you can also follow up on the requirement of on-prem, if it's even a possibility or not, so at least we get an idea on this.
Yes, I will do. Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Shabir. Thank you for this valuable presentation, and
Thank you
looking
very
forward for next presentation also with Replan.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Bye-bye.
Have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.